Spirituality is like a river, flowing unseen beneath the surface of life, whispering secrets to those who listen. The soul is a lotus, rooted in struggle, yet reaching for the light, just as the sun coaxes petals open at dawn. Nature knows the way. The tree bends but never breaks. The mountain stands in silent wisdom. Even the firefly, glowing softly in the dark, reminds us, truth is not a blazing sun, but a quiet light within. The ocean, vast and untamed, mirrors the heart's depth, while the wind, unseen yet felt, moves like grace through the leaves of existence. Every stone, every stream, every star, a verse in an eternal hymn, calling the seeker home.
My journey began with a flood of whys and whats. But now, as I return to my adobe, I also find myself coming back to a place I once called home. There's a quiet joy, a joy that carries me to that mountain peak. Where I have felt weightless, one with the wind, the earth, the silence. Where I felt I truly belonged. But every journey needs a guide. From the moment I arrived in Kolkata, Pratyusha became mine, a friend, a source of insight, a gentle compass before the next step. She introduced me to the city of joy, Kolkata, where the echoes of British colonialism entwine with the vibrant pulse of Indian culture. River Ganges, ancient, alive, flowing through this city of paradoxes. Born in the Himalayas, flowing across the north and east, it carries life and takes away sin. It is not just water, it is memory, myth, and faith. But to understand more, we set our sights on the source, the Himalayas. To be close to where life begins, where belief flows from the mountains, and the meaning of spirituality deepens. This is where it truly begins. I've stepped away from the noise of the city into the silence of the mountains. Here in the stillness, the questions grow louder. This is where it truly begins. I've stepped away from the noise of the city into the silence of the mountains. Here in the stillness, the questions grow louder. I strip away the unnecessary habits, comforts, the armor of busyness. Nature does not hurry, yet everything unfolds. In this calmness, I feel something ancient, an old, quiet wisdom moving quietly around me and perhaps within me. Like a river beneath the soil, unseen but nourishing. I don't know yet what I'm looking for, but I know I'm here to seek, and seeking too is a kind of truth.
In every seeker's path, the first step is not clarity, but doubt. Doubt is not the absence of faith. It is the space where faith begins to take form. The ancient sages did not arrive at truth by knowing. They arrived by asking, by listening, by unlearning. The silence of the mountains does not answer with words. It answers with presence. And in that presence, something begins to shift. A soft unraveling, a quiet remembering. The search is not for something outside. It is the rediscovery of what has always been within.
There are moments in the journey when a question no longer just lingers in thought, but takes root in the pulse of your being. Pratyusha, now more than a guide, almost a mirror, felt it was time. she took me to a monastery tucked into the folds of the mountains. I met Pratyusha's Guruji in that monastery, Nepal Tamang Rinpoche. The air swam with incense, thick as devotion. Chants older than memory wove through the halls, foreign to my ears, yet familiar to some deeper part. As I sat across from the monk, his stillness like an anchored shore, I let the question rise. Tell me, Guruji, how does knowledge become wisdom?
It depends in our life. Normally the difference between knowledge and wisdom, knowledge can be of any level, academic knowledge, mathematic knowledge, geography knowledge, worldly knowledge, whatsoever, and knowledge can be positive and negative. Knowledge can be constructive and destructive. That means both positive and negative. Whereas wisdom can't be negative or destructive. Spiritual wisdom is something always positive. Yeah, so you cannot say which comes first, but normally knowledge. Then when you go in spiritual level, when you grow your knowledge into deeper level through the meditation, then it becomes wisdom.
Alongside knowledge, I began to realize meditation holds a quiet, vital place on the path to spiritual wisdom. Some dawns, I would kneel by the mountain river, its currents singing over stone, its breath mingling with mine. no longer separate from the silence. I learned to move with it, to breathe into it, to dissolve into the act of being. That morning in the river's flow, I wasn't just observing, I was part of it. And for a fleeting moment, I understood what it means to truly be present.
Discipline is the soul's quiet architecture. It is not a cage, but a rhythm. A commitment to returning again and again to the present moment. Across every tradition, it is discipline that deepens awareness. And through that awareness, awakening begins. Water has always held something sacred. It cleanses not just the body, but the burdens we carry. It marks beginnings, new paths, quiet transformations. It flows through myth and ritual, remind us of impermanence, of surrender, of flow. And within each faith, prayer has a stillness, a meditative core, the rosary in Catholic hands, the rhythmic breath of a Sufi dancer, the chants of Tibetan monks, the silent zikr of the mystics, the focused breath of a yogi. Different languages, different names, but the silence beneath them is the same. All point toward one thing, a return to the self, and beyond the self, to the sacred.
The more I meditate, the more I begin to understand. It's not just about silencing the mind. It's about making space for truth, for grace, for something higher to enter. I've started to feel it in the quiet moments of prayer too, not as a ritual bound to any one religion, but as a doorway. So I began to walk across boundaries, from temple bells to church altars. I didn't go seeking a god. I went to listen, to offer, to feel. Each prayer, each tradition, became like stepping stones across a river. All leading toward the same silent shore. Closer, perhaps, to the wisdom I seek. After a full day of seeking, I returned to something simple, a warm cup of tea and a quiet moment to just be. There's something liberating in this stillness. No boundaries, no labels, just the silence where meaning begins to grow. And in that pause, I remember something Guruji Rinpoche once said during a teaching session.
Whether you accept or practice a religion or not is not important, but spirituality is very, very important. Spirituality goes with our inner well-being, our happiness, our inner healing. So spiritual development must be there. That means really you should, as you are trying to understand external world, you should also try to understand your inner world, your different emotions, how emotions arise, how they evolve, how they play important roles in our life, especially negative emotions, because we human beings have sometimes we are controlled by emotions like anger, hatred, and jealousy, and too much arrogance, selfishness, ego. So these drive negative actions. So spirituality and inner understanding of our emotions and inner spiritual wisdom is very, very important for our well-being and for our inner happiness.
Guruji often took us to a quiet valley, high above the hills, just before sunrise. He believed that the early hours are when the mind is most open, most receptive. And I felt it too. There's a softness in the morning light, a kind of silence that doesn't just surround you. It listens back. He would remind us that the deepest spiritual practice doesn't unfold behind closed doors. It happens beneath the open sky, in the breath of the wind, the stillness of the earth, and in the quiet rhythm of simply being. I began to understand. Spirituality is not something we chase or achieve. It is something we tune into. Lately, watering plants feels different. There's a quiet tenderness in watching life respond to care. A soft unfolding that doesn't rush, doesn't demand. The path was familiar, yet something had changed. Maybe it's the silence inside me, no longer searching, just walking. As I wander through the open stillness, a poem I once learned in Kolkata begins to rise within me. Tagore's words, drifting through my thoughts like the wind through tall grass. I traveled miles for many a year. I spent a lot in lands afar. I have gone to see the mountains, the oceans I have been to view. But I haven't seen with these eyes. Just 2 steps from my home lies. On a corn of paddy grain, a glistening drop of dew. Lately, old habits from my childhood have started to return. Alongside writing, I've started painting again. Not to create art for the world, but to give shape to the moments I've lived. But some memories cannot be painted. Some memories are not meant to be told. They're meant to be carried. Like the memory of her. A 100-year-old woman I once met on these same hills. She owned almost nothing, yet lacked nothing. Living simply, quietly, with nothing but peace in her steps. I visited her, hoping to understand the secret behind her serenity, the stillness in her eyes, the calm in her breath. She took me into her small, sunlit room. There, nestled within the aged silence, was an ancient drum. She didn't explain it, just guided me to play. A simple rhythm, soft, slow, steady. Little did I know then, that beat carried something deeper. Later, she took me to the fields to gather leaves for the day's meal. She showed me how to cook in her quiet, minimal way, over a wood fire where the day's finds became the day's nourishment. Our conversations were mostly in gestures. But when we stood together, praying to the setting sun, it felt as though our minds spoke the same language. That night, as we sat again before the drum, what once felt abstract became clear. Those simple beats, that gentle rhythm, resonated with the essence of everyday living.
Wisdom that makes us understand the true nature of phenomena. White as white, black is black, right as right, and wrong is wrong. As far as we don't have the right understanding or wisdom, you goes on the other way around. So it makes you arise a lot of negative emotions, and it disturbs your happiness and inner peace. So the most important wisdom is in Buddhism, according to Buddha's philosophy, is wisdom realizing emptiness. Wisdom realizing emptiness means that you have to understand the real, the true nature of phenomena. Yeah, the interconnectedness, the interdependent. This is very important. How we are related with one other. All everything exists independence with others. This is the understanding of emptiness is the deepest level of wisdom.
But emptiness isn't silence. It isn't a void or something missing. There is a kind of chaos in stillness too, a movement beneath the quiet. Sometimes, when I'm among flowers, I wonder. They begin empty each day and are filled again and again with the elements that sustain them. They hold nothing of their own, and yet they bloom. People empty their minds when they enter sacred spaces, not just to quiet themselves, but to make room for belief, for meaning. And maybe that's what emptiness really is. Not absence, but openness, a space the soul makes to be filled with something greater.
Across the world, people travel far, not to escape life, but to meet it in silence. They walk barefoot to ancient riverbanks, where the sun rises with prayer. They kneel beneath towering domes, where the light filters like grace through stone. They circle sacred centers over and over like planets drawn to gravity. Different tongues whisper the same hope. Hands fold in different ways, but the ache behind them is shared. People come to empty themselves of fear, of anger, of doubt. And in that emptiness, they make room for something meaningful.
I had prayed in many ways, in many places, to many names for the same vast silence. Each gesture was sincere, each offering real. But in my heart, I carried something more than prayer. I carried the hope that my guru would see my devotion not just to the divine, but to the path he opened for me. And so, in quiet reverence, I asked to take refuge. Not as someone who has found all the answers, but as someone ready to live the questions with honesty. Like all beautiful things, my time here must come to an end. But this isn't goodbye. It's a quiet promise to return. The journey for spiritual wisdom doesn't end here. It only changes direction. In these days, I've formed bonds with the wildflowers, with the trees that lined my path through the forest, with the wind that listened when I spoke nothing at all. I gathered the golden wax of the pine trees, gems of resin glowing in the light, reminders that nature's beauty lives even in her smallest gestures. I collected them like memory, so their quiet presence might echo this moment back to me when I'm far away. Before I left, I returned to the place where I had prayed, meditated, and simply been. I sat one last time, gazing into the vastness of the Himalayas, and with a heart full of gratitude and newfound wisdom, I offered one final prayer, not for answers, but for the courage to continue listening. But the hardest goodbye I had saved for last. When I met Pratyusha, we didn't speak a word. The silence between us was full. She handed me a small bunch of wildflowers. They will travel with me, carrying the quiet essence of our friendship, rooted in stillness, nurtured with guidance, and blossomed in understanding. I'm back to the familiar corners of my room, but something within me has shifted. My diary rests beside me, pages now heavy with more than just words. Pressed between them are wildflowers, leaves, pine wax, Souvenirs not just of places, but of moments. Each pressed petal holds a breath of the mountain air, a prayer whispered into the wind, a silence shared, a lesson received. This journey began with questions. When I first set out, I carried many questions. I thought I was searching for answers, but what I found instead was something simpler, a way of being. Spiritual wisdom isn't about knowing everything. It's about learning how to be. With nature, with stillness, with oneself. Spiritual wisdom, I've learned, isn't something you arrive at. It reveals itself slowly, when the noise fades and the soul begins to listen. And though my days in the mountains have ended, the journey hasn't. Because the end doesn't mean it's over. It's a start to a new beginning.